Hello YouTube. Today we're going to be doing a video on sexing your boas. We'll be covering the tools you need. We'll be covering a few different methods of sexing your boa. And I have four different boas that we will be doing these procedures on. I have 2 males and 2 females. One of each is an adult and a juvenile. So let's get started. First thing you will need is a probe kit. Various sizes for juveniles. These first 3 are for juveniles. These next 3 are for your adults. Take out this big one here. As you can see, it has a ball in. These are titanium or stainless steel, either one. This will be the biggest in the set. They're smooth. You'll need a good set of these. There's a smaller one for your juveniles. And then just a little tiny probe for your hatchlings or your newborns. So, one probing kit. All important, hand sanitizer. You need to be clean while you're doing this. And petroleum, regular unscented petroleum jelly. And then, of course, some snakes. Now, let's talk about the popping method. Popping is generally good for snakes that are hatchlings or newborns for boas, hatchlings for pythons and everything else. Newborns up to about 3.5 to 4 feet. After 3.5, 4 feet, popping doesn't work very well. It's very hard to get the male hemipenes to come out. Therefore, you could accidentally sex your snake as female because you don't see the hemipenes pop out. And popping does take a lot of practice. I am, for one, not very good at it. I have a baby male in there I can probe fairly easily, finding out he's male, but popping him is a different story, and he's a newborn. He's only about 22 inches long, and I have a hard time popping him. There's the bump method. This only works for boas, as far as I know. I've never heard of it working in pythons. I don't work with pythons that much, but from what I've heard, this is a method only for boas. And that is just, it's kind of like popping, only in reverse. You take your thumb from the vent, pull back on the tail, and if you feel a bump about midway through your tail, it's male. If the tail stays smooth all the way down, it's female. Popping is, you take your thumb, you put it behind the vent, and you grab the tail from the tip, and you roll your thumb up towards the vent. This is supposed to be able to push the hemipenes out. So if those 2 methods don't work for you, you can go to probing. Probing, you don't want to do is very often. You want to try and get it right the first time, because it puts a lot of stress on the snake. They don't like it very much. So let me get my snakes out and we'll go over some of these methods. I'll be right back. Okay, these are my male and female hypo red-tailed boas. Let's see, this one's my male. I know because his head stripe is not broken. It goes all the way through. And I don't know if you can see it very well, but my female's head stripe is got some gaps in it, so that's how I tell them apart. But let's go with the male. Now, This is that bump method I was telling you about. Let's get zoomed in here a little bit. Okay. So, as you can see on his tail here, he's got his spurs are pretty well pronounced. That's a good sign he's male. Don't move the camera. Okay. So the bump method is you take your thumb from the vent and you just glide it along the tail. Hey. Yep, okay. And about midway down, ooh, you feel a little bump. So just right there, I felt a little bump. There's a little bump. Okay. Now popping is just the opposite. You put your finger behind the vent. And like I said, I'm not very good at this. There. Nope. Like I said, I'm not very good. Here's my female. Now, when you go and pull along her tail, like so, very slowly with your finger, she's not happy. You don't feel a bump. It'll be about midway down the tail on the underside here. You'll start to feel a bump. You'll feel a little bump that'll pop underneath your finger. You don't feel that, you probably have a female. Now when you pop a female, they're easy to pop because there's nothing that comes out. And this is why popping is not a very reliable method, because if nothing comes out, you think you have a female. Get off the... Get out of the camera. Okay. She grabbed a hold of the camera. She likes the camera. Say hi. Ooh, say hi to the camera. She wants the camera. Okay. So, my little ones are being squirmy and difficult. Alright, 1 minute. Alright, let's take a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Take your small probe. Make sure it's nice and sterilized. Use some hand sanitizer on me. Okay. Now, just dip your probe in, get a nice generous amount of petroleum jelly on it. And let's go with the male. Now, this is where you need to be patient. This is where you need to be careful. Get your male, straighten his tail out. Take the probe, go towards his head, and get it placed into the vent. Okay? Rotate it, point towards the posterior, and gently, see, he doesn't like it, so let's start again. I gotta get it into the vent. Look here. You are not being a very helpful snake here. There we go. Now, come on. I had it. She popped it out. He popped it out. Little bastards are squirmy. Okay, let's try this again. This is why you don't want to be probing. It's very stressful on the snake. But once you get the probe to go in like this, okay, you got the probe in the snake. Mark it with your finger by the vent and pull the probe out. As you can see, it went in very deep. So you mark it. Look at the scales. Place the probe by the vent down to where it measures on the tail. Okay, from the vent to here. Count those scales. Okay, that is on this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It went about 12 scales. That is a male. Basically what you're doing is you are probing this into his hemipene. He has one on either side of the vent. I'll go into a little more detail on this on the bigger male so you can see better. But because I wasn't able to pop him, because I suck at it, I went ahead and probed him for you. So, probing, which you just saw, and in this method here, just taking your thumb and your finger and pulling it along the tail gently, and you'll feel a little bump. Bump, bump. Right about there. Pretty much right about where the probe went in at its deepest. When you get past the hemipene, you'll feel a little bump. So you pull down on the tail, generally about between 10 and 15 scales down, you'll feel a little bump. That's your male. Popping is the other way. You place your finger behind the vent, and then you try to come down here, midway down the tail, and you try to just push the hemipenes out gently, massaging them. I'm still not having any luck. I can't get his hemipenes to come out. So, you can see popping, not very reliable, because I didn't get any hemipenes to come out. If I didn't have a probe kit, or feel the bump in his tail, if it was a python or something like that, I would have called this female. But it is not, it is a male. Now, like I said, popping with the female, it's the same thing. Nothing comes out, so it's you say it's a female, but if you're no good at popping, But the bump method works very well with the female boa, because you will definitely feel a bump in the male, not so much in the female. It is smooth. There's no hemipene to go past, so you don't feel the bump from the hemipene because the hemipene's not there. Now, like I said, that works very well on babies and hatchlings and newborns. Not so much once the snake's 3 to 4 feet long. Then they become sexually mature by that age, and the muscles in their tail develop and get stronger, and you can't feel the bump. So After that, you got to go to probing. So let's get the adults out, and I'll show you the difference between a male and a female in probing an adult. Plus, we'll get a better look at probing the male, because I have a nice big 6-foot male in here. Okay, this is Optimus. This is my big male. It's kind of skinny, but let's go over the male. Now, let's look at the vent. You can see his spurs right here by my pinky. Those little spurs right there. I don't know. This is his vent. This is his tail. As you can see, it's long, it's thin. Male tails, sometimes visually you can look at them. Kind of hard to see on camera here, but for the most part of the tail, it's the same thickness. And then it tapers at the end. Okay, as you can see, it's a very long tail, and then at the end, the last inch or so of the tail, it starts to taper, become skinny. If you have two snakes, a male and female, that are roughly the same age and same size, you can generally look at the tail and tell the difference. But if a snake is of an unknown age, unknown origin, you really can't tell, because some females will have an overweight male can look like he's got a fat, evenly tapered tail like a female would. Alright, now, like I said, popping on a big male like this doesn't work, because their hemipines are about 2 inches long. And it's hard to get them to come out. Okay, come here, buddy. Get around here. So, we're going to go with this probe here, the second to largest probe. Okay? The next to largest probe. Clean it in alcohol, make sure it's nice and sterilized. We don't want any debris or anything nasty getting inside the snake's vent. Put a good amount of lubricant on it and just kind of wipe off a little bit of the excess, making sure it's still got some lubricant on it. Alright, now, like I was showing you before, place it into the vent. Go to either side of the tail. You don't want to do this in the center. Come on. Now they're going to tense up and fight with you a little bit, but so bam, get it in there. And slowly push it in. Twist it a little bit till it wants to stop. Mark where it is with your finger and pull it out. Mine went in about that far, and you can put it up against the tail. It goes right up here to this first white line. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on him. His only went in 8 scales. Generally they go in between 8 and 12 scales for a male. Okay? So that's your male. Between 8 and 12. Subcolloidal scales is, I believe, how you pronounce it. These scales right here past the vent. And let's put him back and let's take a look at my female. Now, this is Sally. This is my female. She's the same size as my male. She's 6 foot, but as you can see, she is 3 times the girth he is. Okay, she's much heavier bodied. Her tail short, tapers evenly from the vent, which is right here, to the end of her tail. It is a nice even taper. With the male, it was the same size up until about the last inch of the tail, then it tapered off. Okay, so a female, she tapers evenly from the vent to the back of the tail. I've had these guys for a long time, so it's easy for me to identify them. Like I said, if this was a snake that you knew nothing about and you just picked up, you could not use that as a way of identifying male and female. Now with a big female like this, I'm going to take the biggest probe I have. Much like the male, same process. Go in the vent, flip it backwards, push in. With a female, this should only go in between 2 and 5 scales. You want to use the bigger probe on the female because you do not want to accidentally perforate her organs, which you can do with a smaller probe, and you might push it in and puncture her. It'll go in deeper and you'll think you have a male, but you've ended up hurting your snake. Alright, she's getting a death grip on my neck. Come here, girl. Okay, so female time. Relax her tail. Come on, girlie, relax. Put the probe in the vent. Flip it around back. And there. I'm going to twist it a little bit. I can't go in any more than that. See the difference? And she went in 3 scales. The male took up 2 inches of the probe. The female, just the tip of the probe. So, female will go in about that far, up to my finger. Males will generally go in about that far. So, and that is how you probe a snake. Come here. Let's say hi to everybody. Mwah. Good girl. Now, she's pretty agitated from me probing her, but she's still a gentle little giant. Anyway, comments below will be answered. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. And have a good day.